Welcome back to Lost Legacies. I'm Matt.
And I'm Sam.
So before we jump in, Sam, we got to throw a disclaimer to everyone because something happened this weekend with Hulu. I don't know what it was, but they started throwing commercials. So for listeners, we talked about this like back when we first started the show, but honestly, I think the only place you can stream Lost is on Hulu. Technically, you could go through Amazon Prime, but you have to have an IMDb account, I think.
Yeah, something like that.
Even then, like it's standard definition and it has commercials. That's why we decided to go with Hulu.
And I think that's kind of the reason why if like this episode felt a little bit harder to get through, specifically because of those commercials.
Really?
It's weird. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Because I was just thinking about this right now, and it was like I watched it and I liked it. But there's this weird thing. It's like there's like a disconnect now with me because I'm like, I saw it, but I kind of have a hard time like keeping the events in my head and being like, oh, okay, yeah, like that. There was that. And honestly, like I wanna like, obviously not right now, because I don't have enough information on that, but I would love to see like a study to see if people who are watching shows now, like how much they retain, like how much information they actually retain. And if people watch like the difference, like, so watching something that doesn't have commercial breaks, watching versus something that does have commercial breaks versus something that does have commercial breaks and there are actual commercials in those breaks.
Yeah, that's interesting because I'm also curious, how has our, like, the memories we retain from these series, how has it changed between everything you just said, but then also just binging? We've talked about it before. I think Lost would benefit from like a binge culture that we are in now. And I think that's why a lot of people's perspectives on the show is changing, because they're able to watch more episodes at a time.
Yeah.
However, a lot of the fun back when the show was originally on was the suspense of not knowing what's going to happen week to week, and then months between seasons. So yeah, I don't know. That's all stuff we've talked about before, but it's interesting that you bring up the commercials now. What I was going to say before you jumped into that is it's okay if you watch commercials. Well, because here's the thing. I checked it out, and when I watched the episode of commercials, and you'll see on like the little timeline, there's like 4 or 5 commercial breaks. I only got 2 of them, I think.
Oh, really?
Like it would go to black and it would like load a commercial and then it would just go back to the show. Like, hey, that's fine with me. But I went back to the first episode and compared. IMDb threw a commercial in the first 5 minutes of the pilot. So we're in the middle of action. And remember, we talked about that. Like, that's why we decided not to do it. And also it's not good quality.
Like formatting.
Yeah, formatting.
Yeah.
Hulu is the way it aired, and it's in HD now. So that's the way to go. But I was going to say, Hulu's commercials in the pilot, first commercial is 25 minutes in, the way it's supposed to be. So the Hulu ads are the way the original ads were when the show came out, the way the show was made. Because even without ads, you still have to cut the blacks and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So I went on this whole thing just to say, if you don't want to pay the extra money to get ad free, I think in this case, it's okay because it's actually more closer to the original format of this show.
That's true. But again, you're right. If you watch this with commercials, that's fine. Obviously, no judgment from either of us.
Well, I don't know. The way I took that to say it was like, hey, as long as you're enjoying Lost, you're enjoying Lost. But then Sam comes in and says, no, if you're a real fan, you got to watch commercial free.
That's right. If you're watching with commercials, you can go to hell.
All right. Well, okay. So let's get into this. We were talking about season 1, episode 22, right? Episode 22, Born to Run. As Michael is forced to set sail sooner than expected, a fight to determine who will be joining him on the raft begins. Okay, so to finish up what you were just saying, though, it's interesting because I had similar feelings to you on this episode, and I only got 2 commercials. And I also had similar feelings about last week's episode, and we had no commercials. Now, and I gotta say, that episode just went live today, and while editing it, I'm listening. I'm like, you know what? This isn't our hottest episode, and I think we felt it at the time.
Yeah, I felt that while we were recording.
Like, it didn't seem like there was a lot to talk about. Just like today, there was almost no behind the scenes about these episodes, but it's like as good as the Saeed episode was, like, and we mentioned this, it kind of felt like filler. This is just stuff we need to address before the stories can move on.
It's really cool that we have a season 1 that is as long as this, right?
Right.
And again, you know, we keep talking about that and we keep coming back to that, how like in this day and age, most shows, you know, on streaming, they're done in 10 episodes. That's the season, you know? So by the time Lost passed that, like they were just barely getting into like the meat of their stuff. You know, we're really getting into like the characters, the relationships, everything on the island, you know, all of that. And I feel like all the episodes after that 10 episode mark, like they're kind of gold standards. Like there's a stretch of time within the season where almost every episode is it's like a 4, you know? It's like if we're rating like on 1 to 5, like almost every episode is a 4.
Yeah. We had like four, maybe even 5 episodes that were just like really damn good. Yeah. And then all of a sudden we get to this episode and the last one, and it's just like, oh, I don't know. Maybe it just feel a little, maybe like they're tiring out or something. I don't know.
I mean, you know, when you have as many episodes as that in your season, I feel like obviously not all of them are going to be great. You're going to have a few that don't hit as much. I'm actually very happy that we really don't have an episode that's been like bad. Like, oh, that was a bad episode. Yeah. Even the Charlie's second episode, you know, with Ethan, you know, and all that. Like, even that one's not technically a bad episode. It's just
kind of mishandled.
Yeah, it's mishandled. You know, so I won't say that this episode or the last one were bad. Yeah. I agree with you. Like there is a filler type of quality to it. And I wonder how they're going to handle that in like later seasons. Cause I know every season gets shorter, you know? And I also kind of feel like with with these last 2 episodes, I kind of feel like maybe the flashbacks as a storytelling device, maybe it's not sustainable for every episode.
That's very good point. And for a show that completely, I don't know if it hinges, but in a way it does, because that's their format. This is a flashback show. I'm interested to see what you think going forward, because like you said, the seasons do get shorter. So we can kind of dissect and see how the writers deal with that. And is it more of like, instead of because man, this season is a marathon, 24 episodes, you know, in a span of X amount of months. Yeah. And I think the less you have, especially with that format with flashbacks and stuff, it would probably be better to work with less episodes, because you're not just focusing on your core island story. You're focusing a lot about the past, and things like this, like as we've seen with Jack before, these aren't really stories that are going to impact the future that we think, but it kind of just gives a different side or something new to the character that we hadn't seen before.
Right.
And I'm kind of wondering if we discussed that with Boone's episode, or the episode where Boone died, because Jack's whole flashback is him trying to figure out his wedding vows. Could you still have told, like, that was good flashbacks for Jack's storyline, that episode, but could you have done it in a way without flashbacks? Because if you take out those flashbacks, you don't need to tell that story at that point in time.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Although I thought that episode was really solid and it worked. That was just kind of the example I was using going forward. If you took out the flashbacks, could you still tell the same stories?
I feel like yes, but then is it still lost? You know?
Yeah.
Because it's exactly as you
Sam,
said.
have you heard of the ship of Theseus? Is that what it's called? Is that what the ship was called?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
If you haven't seen WandaVision,
elaboration.
Go watch WandaVision.
Cool little switch up on the intro. I think this is the first episode where we start in the flashback.
Yeah. I noticed that right off the bat too. I was like, oh, this doesn't feel like Lost at all. In fact, the way it was shot is a straight homage to what's the movie? Base Motel?
Psycho?
Psycho, yes. I'm drawing a complete blank. The camera angles of like the camera or the car coming in and all that stuff. And then we don't know it's Kate until we see her in the shower. It was all the same like camera angles from Psycho.
Oh, interesting.
Why? No reason. They just wanted to. It's fun. But yeah, so we see
the thing about filmmakers. They're dorks.
They're dorks, man. So we start off with a blonde woman dyeing her hair, or can you undye? No, you just have to dye back the original color, right? Can you wash it out?
Essentially, yeah. There's a way that, if you're not like upkeeping that, like your hair, like that color dye, it will eventually, run out and your hair will come back. It's just going to take a really long time.
Yeah. So we eventually find out this is Kate, who starts the episode off as a blonde. And she goes back to her original hair color, like, oh, okay.
Like 2 minutes time.
Yeah. So I'm guessing she like dyed it back because it was like instantaneous. It was like one shower later. But okay, so this is a good example because we were just talking about last week how Kate has been such a big part of this series in the first half, and she still had good stuff to do in the second half, but she's really been in this supporting role lately where she's just kind of helping characters here and there. And she comes back big time in this one.
Mm-hmm.
As I think usual, the island story is kind of more interesting than the flashback. So let's talk about the flashbacks first.
Okay.
The flashback's kind of exactly what we've been talking about. There wasn't anything really new about Kate. It's more of the same, except we're finding out more info about her, but without the context.
Yeah.
It just seems like Kate, we've already seen she's on the run for something. She's clearly a criminal for some reason, which is interesting because early in the season, she says that she killed the man she loved.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Yeah, she killed the man she loved. Well, today, or in this episode, we find out she didn't really, but she got the man she loved killed. So she was already on the run before that.
Mm-hmm.
Because, I guess chronologically, this is the furthest back into her past that we've seen. So we find out, okay, she was in love with her best friend since they were kids. Whatever happened, they grew up. They went their separate ways. He made his choice, though, man. He chose to stay by her, and it got him killed.
Mm-hmm.
Her mom, in a very disturbing scene, is clearly terrified of Kate for some reason.
Mm-hmm.
And that's really it. To really sum it up, it was really good character moments. I loved everything with her and Tom. That was his name.
Mm-hmm.
Her and Tom. Excellent acting on both ends. That was really it. It was just another. It wasn't even another side of Kate. It was just you saw her relationship with Tom and you saw her relationship with her mom. Mm-hmm. I don't know if this episode. I don't know if it was enough to justify like a flashback episode.
Right.
They could have done it like Boone and Shannon, where they had a flashback episode, but the flashbacks were really short compared to everyone else's. Like maybe that could have been the case here.
I don't know. I kind of want to know what the thought process is of the writers, like are they just drawn from a hat and being like, okay, like this week we got to deal with this, so let's see whose episode is going to be. Pull a name. Oh, it's Son, or oh, it's Kate. Oh, it's Charlie. Like I kind of want to know what does come first. Is it the flashback? Is it the island stuff? Is it a theme? And they're like, okay, we want to explore this theme. How does that relate to the island? How does that relate to a flashback? Whose flashback can we build off of? Like, I genuinely want to know,
right?
So if there are any people who worked in the behind the scenes of Lost who are listening to this right now, reach out to us. Our Twitter handles, our Instagrams. Just reach out, and if you want to be on the show, we'll have you on. You can give us in-depth behind the scenes look at how these stories were constructed, because I also agree with you, just within like the last I don't know, maybe 3-4 episodes, and to varying degrees, I do kind of feel like the flashbacks aren't giving us any new information, really. Again, it is more of just a way to explore theme. And while that's all well and good, when you have something as, as tension building as, did somebody poison Michael? Jack and Locke finally talk about the hatch. Like, are Kate and Sawyer are one of them going to out the other for their troubled past? Like, when you have all these other things that are built up on the island, the flashback then sort of becomes a nuisance, and it becomes sort of like a maybe not an easy way to like break out of that tension, but it does just feel like we're breaking up the tension because we have to get to a flashback. Like, we're going to end it on this note because we're going to go to the flashbacks. Like, but is the flashback really all that important now?
Right.
No.
See, that's why I even wonder, like, maybe, I don't know. Cause if we didn't have all these flashbacks, we wouldn't have really had, the same feeling towards Tom dying at the end. But at the same time, I feel like I'm glad we saw that in this episode, because this is the episode where everyone finds out about Kate. They still don't know the details, but this is the episode where Kate gets outed as the criminal. I think it's important that we find out. We still don't know what she did, why she's on the run, but we've answered the question of who was it she got killed. And I feel like that's important. That's an important question to answer in this story in particular. I don't think it justifies an entire half an episode of flashbacks. It could have just been, I wish the show played more with that. Instead of doing a flashback episode, they just do like 1 or 2. If, honestly, if I was in charge, like, I would really like putz around with it. I'm like, ooh, this entire episode, it's a flashback. But you would have to do something very like lore heavy to do that.
Right. I kind of take it back to the pilot, where we're really only getting flashbacks back to the plane. Not all of those are very long. They were maybe 30 seconds, a minute long. And then we're immediately back on the island.
Yeah.
I feel like maybe having something like that, and that does sort of add to, like, well, then does this show really need to like build itself around flashbacks or incorporate flashbacks as much?
Yeah.
I want to know if there was a version of this where the flashbacks weren't part of it.
Right.
It was just like, boom, plane crash, here we go. Everything gets revealed. Like, we're doing episode by episode. It's all island based. I want to know if there's a version of that show that was ever discussed.
Yeah.
And, obviously right now I feel like, no, this is like clearly the superior show.
Yeah.
I wonder if that's going to, if my opinion on that will change over the course of this watch. And yeah, like, I don't know. I am curious about that, especially because, again, this episode and a few of them in the past have sort of felt held back by having to go into the flashbacks.
Yeah. And again, this is all stuff we've talked about, but it's kind of starting to become more apparent. We're starting to see the effects of these problems that have been there for a while. I think a lot of this has to do with the studio interference, which we talked about earlier in the season, and which is information that's just now going public, like as of last year. That's how recent this is. But ABC, they love this show so much that they wanted it for 10 years. And this is still like year one. They're like, we want this to go for 10 years. And there's specific things that they weren't allowing the writers to do in the story, because at the end of the day, all the showrunners, all the writers, everything they work on, it has to go by the desk of the studio execs. Right. And we mentioned that back early. This is like episode 8 where Saeed meets Russo. There's a lot more lore that was dropped in episode 8. So stuff that we don't even know now in episode 22 was already supposed to be common knowledge on this island for the audience. Studios didn't want that. So Lindelof, he was already, as soon as the show took off and got picked up, he was already figuring out how to end it because he wanted to make a complete story. Studios didn't allow that. So now we're starting to see kind of the effects of that. Now, like you said, there's some very important stuff is happening on the island this episode, but we can't really focus on it because we have these flashbacks, which are good, but they're not completely necessary. So I don't know. We'll have to see how it goes out playing forward, how it goes out, how it plays out going forward.
There you go. Semantics.
Yeah, you say tomato, I say tomato. But and it just sucks too, because most of what we're talking about isn't really the flashbacks, because there's not that much to discuss. Most of it has been everything else, how it affects everything else. But yeah, some of the more important stuff, Jack and Saeed know about the hatch now.
Yeah.
Which is already... I found a piece of food on my desk. I don't remember the last time I ate at this desk.
It's food that you sent yourself from the future.
I lied. I ate dinner here yesterday. I forgot. I got chicken fried steak. I'm like, I ate something fried at this desk. Okay.
You eating chicken fried steak at your desk? You insane?
Yeah, well, the parents went to
you a college student?
I know, they went to Texas Roadhouse and they ate with the family, and I'm just here, still not vaccinated. So I said, well, I was actually watching Lost while eating my chicken fried steak. Like, watching the world rotate past my window, Sam, as I'm waiting for my second shot.
All around me are familiar faces. And that's as much as we can get without copyright infringement.
I hurt myself today.
Oh, jeez.
To see if I... All right, I don't want to get sued.
That's it.
Both of those videos were in our... what was that? What was the thing we did at the... It's not Scared Straight. It's the...
No. Oh my God. I forgot.
The one about drunk driving.
Yeah. I remembered it right up until you asked me.
Oh God, I know. I forgot.
Literally just plopped out of my head. Shattered Dreams.
Shattered Dreams. Yeah.
That's what it was.
We had Death walking into the classrooms to pull students out. I'm like, oh my God. That was awesome.
That was awesome. Yeah.
It's pretty damn cheesy, but I was on the production side of it, so I had fun. That was cool. Good times.
We're like, we're dramatic,
Yeah.
At heart, we're like theater kids, it's like we enjoy the theatrics and the drama, so that's we love that shit.
Which is tough. So when we're talking about an episode like this, where there should be theatrics and drama, we're focusing on something else, which is Kate's backstory.
Yeah.
Which should have the equal amounts of theatrics and drama. I would be fine with that, but it's not really. And I think that's where you could see the writers are kind of getting tired. Like, okay, we need to tell the story of Kate. What flashbacks, what events in her life can we come up with that A, mesh in her timeline with everything else we've already established, and
Mm-hmm.
2, meshes with the island. And 3, we have to have enough of it to fill the episode.
Mm-hmm.
So it's the last thing to say about that, because I know I'm jumping back here. But yeah, I'm curious about how they decide to write this. Because 1, okay, what's the island story we're telling this episode?
Mm-hmm.
2, which survivor are we going to focus on? And what's that theme? Because it has to be related somehow.
Mm-hmm.
And 3, at what point in the survivor's backstory does this happen?
Mm-hmm.
Because it's been all over the place, you know? It's been super recent to like Saeed literally just got on the plane after his flashback and ended up on this island.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have other people who are going further back. I'm really curious how they broke this down in the writer's room.
Yeah.
You know, who got which episode and why. How much of their story, the backstory, did they actually have, and how much were they making up? Because keep in mind, this was season 1, and we did talk a lot in the beginning of how a lot of that early stuff they were making it up as they went because they didn't have time for pre-production to write all this stuff down.
Right.
That's something else to look out for too. I wonder if season 2 production, as far as writing goes, if that goes up in quality because they actually had the time to do a pre-production.
Yeah.
We'll see. Maybe if they did, we would have had a more climactic reveal or something for the hatch for Jack and Saeed. There we go. I tied it back in. Because it's just very much like, oh, what the crap is this?
Yeah.
Locke, you didn't tell me. I made a decision, Jack.
Mm-hmm.
That's my Locke impression. You make decisions all the time, Jack. And Jack's like, how could you, Locke?
Oh, wow.
Make a decision without me? Jack, I don't report to you.
I feel like I'm in a black box theater watching a one-man show where...
Oh, geez. It's time to go to church.
Sorry. That was me.
That's the community church high school theater doing the one-man show. And
yeah. Dude, the last one-man show.
Meanwhile, Saeed's like, you're both crazy. I brought you, Jack, to talk him out of this.
Wow. Wow.
Now you're seeing what the Lost reboot is going to be. It's just going to be me.
Oh, yeah. Definitely.
Matt's one-man play.
Definitely not getting into that UIL competition. Jeez. All right. Yeah, I can see where you're coming from talking about how it's a little anticlimactic that you know Locke shows Jack the hatch.
Yeah.
And then they're just having a conversation like around the hatch. Yeah. This episode was covering a lot of ground and
quickly.
Exactly. You know, because again, you know, we like this show is built up around the flashbacks, you know, so it's like we only have so much time before we have to get to another one. And, you know, we, again, with studio interference, we have to sacrifice, you know, constructive storytelling, building up the lore of the island, building up the situation, building up any of that, you know, for whatever. Like we have to sacrifice it for the story of the week. So that sucks. What we do get, though, I really like, because Jack is coming at this pragmatically. Like, okay, we got to figure out a way to open it because there might be stuff in there. There might be supplies. There might be all this. And if worse comes to worse, we just use it as a shelter, which is, you know, that's kind of the thinking that you and I have been, you know, discussing this whole time. Like, were we on the island? What's the first thing we would do? Like, we need shelter, you know, we need all this, blah, blah, blah. That's where Jack's coming from. Saeed, on the other hand, is looking at this from like, why is this thing here? Why was it buried? And why can't we already get into it? Because if it is something that's, you know, I don't know, quote unquote, safe, there should be a way to get into it. It should have easy access. The fact that there's no handle on the outside, that's a red flag right there. So it's like, okay, so Saeed's like, no, we have to rebury this thing. We have to bury it again. We can't open this.
Yeah.
And I think Locke is just sort of there, kind of already knowing that this is how this conversation is going to play out. That's why he didn't tell anybody else. But I think he's allowing this to happen because he knows that this might be a way to actually get the hatch open.
Right.
Because again, we, the audience, know that John Locke saw something in the hatch. A light came on, and he's the only one that saw it. But nobody else on the island knows that.
Right. And I wasn't expecting Jack and Saeed to be on opposing sides on this.
Yeah.
Jack and Locke are actually agreeing on something. Of course, Locke has his motives, but they're actually on the same side in this. So that's a cool little, I don't know if it's a twist, but I didn't see it coming.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, that's kind of it. That's all we get from that storyline this episode.
Yeah, it's literally just like, here we go. We're setting up this problem. Yeah. Obviously, I feel like with the next episode being the start of the season finale, we're going to have to get back to that.
And that's what I want to say about these last two episodes building. The writers at this point, they already know we have X amount of hours left to tell this story this year. At this point, they probably have a good idea. They have a better grasp of the characters, their backstories, more of the island lore, and they have a better idea, okay, what's season 2 going to be? So it kind of feels like in order to get to that point, we got to do this, this, and this, and this, and this, and we only have X amount of episodes to do it. So I think that's why this episode and the last one really felt kind of rushed, or maybe it just wasn't as much care as it needed, for those episodes, because they're like, we need to, kind of like the raft, we need to race to get this done. So when the season finale comes, we're ready to start with chapter 2 of Lost.
Right.
So speaking of race against time, we get a new character this episode.
Yeah.
Who's not
Art.
creepy like Ethan, but we get Arts. What is he, a science teacher?
Yeah, he's a science teacher. A high school science teacher.
I like this actor too. He's one of those faces, like you've seen him before in other stuff. I don't know his name, but
yeah, he
kind of kicks the whole episode off saying like, hey guys, monsoon season's gonna come and everyone on that raft is going towards Antarctica if you don't leave yesterday. So that lights a fire under everyone's butts, and they're like, okay, we're setting sail tomorrow. And Kate's going through her whole flashback thing, which this is something that's changed over the season. When the show started, the survivors were, the way it was shot, the survivors were thinking about these flashbacks. You would see them look off into the distance and then they flash, and then it would cut back and they kind of snap out of it. Kind of like Scrubs. Like, what are you doing? I'm flashing back. It's kind of like that. Which actually was Scrubs after this?
Yeah.
So that they probably got that from Lost. But now there's really no indication that they're literally thinking about it. It's probably just going in the back of their heads. I just wanted to point that out real quick. But anyway, Kate's going through her things, possibly thinking about her flashbacks. And she decides she wants off this island. And that's essentially this episode. She's trying to get off this island. And of course, Sawyer's the one. Sawyer figures it out on his own, which is really cool. She was the fugitive. She's trying to get off. Has a fake ID. She's trying to, she knows it's easier to get on the raft and get rescued and escape that way than to actually get rescued by the reporters and helicopters and stuff and sneak out. Because even Charlie says, you're going to be eternally famous. Yeah, it's just things just spiral from that point on. Michael, it's revealed he gets poisoned, We don't know by who. We assume it's Sawyer. That's who he's assuming. But yeah, things just get crazy from there.
Yeah.
This was a super cool story. Like, and this is why we're talking about the flashbacks holding the show back, because as good as the flashbacks were, this could have been a really cool episode.
Exactly. This is the thing that this is one of the things that I wanted to see. You know, we have you know, it's interesting because we're seeing a lot more people building the raft.
Right.
Like helping build the raft after Arts tells Michael, Jin and Sawyer that monsoon season is coming. So that lights the fire. And so it's like, okay. And then after that, we see a lot more people helping out. We see people,
we see them as a community.
Yeah, exactly. And how cool would it have been to start seeing more people or having that conversation being like, why are you helping all of a sudden? You know, like why, we've just been here working on this for who knows how many days, how many weeks. And now all of a sudden you want to do it. And I want to see somebody come up to them and be like, I'm not brave enough to go out there on my own. I know that about myself, but you guys are the ones who are going to risk your lives. If there's a shot at all of us getting saved, it's on you.
Yeah.
So I'm going to help you get your boat ready to go. That's what I wanted to see. You know, I wanted to see like anybody, doesn't matter who, if you had Arts come back, you know, and like start building, they'd be like what, you know, like just have him say that, you know, doesn't matter who. Also, I do want to just take a minute to say both Kat and I, when Arts came out and was yelling at everybody, we're like, who the hell is this guy?
Right. Yeah.
Where has he been this whole time? And you know, obviously this is like the premiere show to kick off like the 2000s, you know, to really like hit like that cultural vein. Nobody knew it was going to be a phenomenon. Nobody.
Yeah.
Everybody's obviously just, oh yeah, we're going to like, we cast as we go. This is the core cast, you know, blah, blah, blah. I can't tell you the last time I even looked at the background characters to just, you know, just to see like, hey, like, are you still there? Like, are you still there? Like, that's not the show. But I wish, I mean, obviously hindsight being what it is, I really wish that that had happened, that role that people were chosen for those roles. And, you know, again, obviously like, nobody knew it was going to be this big and nobody knows what kind of story you're going to tell. Right. But if you can craft an entire story for Sun specifically because you like the actor and then give her a husband who you then have to cast, who then gets his own equally interesting and unique story.
Yeah.
You could have maybe done that with all of the survivors.
That's what I meant. Cause we mentioned before the extras, like it seems like the obvious thing to do, which is probably, cost more money, but you just have the same extras.
Yeah.
Just put them under a contract, which kind of sucks because that actor is now locked in. You know, they can't go get another job because they're an extra on Lost.
Yeah.
But you could give them, say, like, look, this is in your contract that we're going to slowly give you more to do. And you could even do different tiers. So, of course, you have extras that you never see again, but then you could have some that like, hey, we promise you're going to get more lines or a bigger role as the show goes on. That's how I would do it. That's just how I storytell. That's how I write anyway. I love when you get heroes that start off as background characters that you don't even pay attention to.
Yeah.
But this role of Arts, I like him, and it's not the last we'll see of him.
Oh, good.
This could have easily been the hypochondriac guy from earlier in the season.
Oh yeah.
You know, like that would have been cool because they're like, oh yeah, this guy. Yeah, okay.
Yeah. I liken it kind of to Community as well, because that kind of happened. They did have, you know, like their characters who like, oh yeah, this guy's gonna get like one joke in the whole episode.
Yeah.
And then like 3 episodes go by and oh, he's back, he's got another joke, you know. But then as the seasons go on, they don't really become like we don't get a whole episode centered around them, not usually, but they show up again and they have like they get to have like a tender moment, or they get to be part of the plot, you know, and I think that's fun. I think that's a fun thing, and yeah, I think that's easier to do on sitcoms than it is to do
season
on like
2 is going to start of Lost, and they're already on the raft, and like Starburns is just on there for no reason. He's like, oh, Starburns, yeah, I remember you've been here since episode 1.
Yeah, totally. I've been here the whole time. You know, you're gonna see Fat Neil on the island talking with Hurley about, you know, just talking about D&D. Actually, they're gonna talk about D&D.
Oh man,
Dan Harmon, Damon Lindelof, we know you listen to the show. Please bring it back. We've got ideas
to talk about extras that I like. Star Trek Next Generation, they had like professional Star Trek extras. That's what they did. You mentioned that. Yeah. I'm sure they've had other roles and other jobs too, but some of these actors, like, yeah, they're in episode 1 of Next Gen, and they were still in the movies, you know, the Next Gen movies. Like, they stuck around.
What a life, man!
That's crazy,
what a
right?
Career. I want that.
They've killed extras on Next Gen, and then they come back 2 weeks later as a different character. So it's not really perfect. It's not really the best way to handle it. But I'm like, wait, didn't they kill her off? There's only like one Starfleet officer with short hair like that. Like, I could have sworn she died.
I love that. I love that so much.
You know what? Give her a different name. Lopez. Okay, I guess she's a different character.
There you go. Here's how you do it with me. Like, have me come on, you know, I'll be there for like a season, you know, nothing really happens. I get a couple lines. Season 2, I get killed off in like the first big space battle. And then you just bring me back the next episode. But I got like little lines in my nose, like little like ridges built in my nose. Yeah, I'm an alien. Yeah. Give me some bad looking, you know, like it's the Vulcaneers that aren't gonna pass, you know, inspection, you know, for our main Vulcan officer. Like, that's fine. Just give him to me. Give me a weird haircut to hide him. That's it. I'm your guy. I'll do anything. I will do anything to get on Star Trek. I want to be a professional Star Trek actor.
Yeah, and especially at that time too, because they did Next Gen, Deep Space Nine, and then Voyager. Like almost all back to back. So some of those extras, they would just jump to the next series, you know, as extras. Yeah, dude, that just seems fun. And the fandom accepts them. They love them. You know, the fans show up at the conventions for an extra. What other franchise do you get that?
Yeah. All this to say, Lost needed professional Lost actors. Lost background actors.
So that's where I was going to get into this, because like they're shooting in Hawaii. So I wonder if their extras live in Hawaii. I don't know if they would have flown actors from LA out just to be extras. Which, I mean, I guess I haven't really seen any native Hawaiian looking person there unless they were just white, you know, but so I guess that in a way is limiting if their extras are a local hire. But I don't know. It just, I love Arts, and I do like what they do with him. And eventually he does get a little webisode in, you know, Lost gets crazy with like their online content and stuff, and they do webisodes. And I already said Vincent gets a webisode. Arts gets a webisode at one point. So we do find out more about him. But like this could have easily been the hypochondriac guy, or Arts could have been introduced earlier as the hypochondriac guy. It's just little things like that which kind of make it more ingrained. So you don't say, who the hell is this guy? Instead, you're like, oh, I forgot about this guy. That's kind of how Rose is.
Yeah.
She's such a brilliantly written, kind character. Every time you see her, you're like, oh, thank God you're still alive.
Yeah, because we can go like 10 episodes without seeing her. And then we're like, oh,
Rose. And she comes in for like one scene or two, and then she goes, yeah.
Yeah, you're like, oh, thank goodness you're still here.
Yeah.
So... yeah, but going back to what kind of prompted all this is that I do feel like this is the episode where it should have been all island centered, all island based.
Oh yeah.
You start off, and it's not even so much a ticking clock. I mean, it is kind of a ticking clock because, you know, like they need to get the boat ready to go yesterday. So they have to leave tomorrow. They have to. And imagine the tension that builds when like, oh, okay, like maybe one person starts like helping them build. Michael gets poisoned and they're like, oh, so what's going to happen now? You know, all of these things, you know, and then the episode ends where it's like the raft is it's kind of done. Like it really looks done. They're putting the finishing touches on, but like it's done. We get that conversation with Michael and Walt at the end. So it's like, okay, like they're ready. They're going to go. So yeah, I just feel like you could have crafted an interesting story around everything happening specifically on the island, even if you still had Kate be the focal point for this episode.
Yeah.
You know, she does enough that she's done enough. She does enough and she's in it enough to where that can still be true.
Yeah.
You know, so
and because it's not just what she's doing, it's the way she's perceived.
Yeah, exactly.
So we mentioned everyone thinks it's Sawyer. Eventually we find out like, oh, Sawyer didn't poison Michael. And they don't really outright say it, but that Sawyer outs Kate and her criminal background. So it's led to believe that Kate's the one who poisoned him. Which still doesn't really like work or make sense for me in my head. Because I'm like, I don't think, would they leave without Michael? He built the damn thing. I feel like they would have just waited the extra 3 or 4 months and then Michael would set sail. He wouldn't have liked it.
Yeah.
But like, I don't see the raft leaving without him. So I'm like, I never really bought the fact that like Kate poisoned him.
Yeah.
But it's not, we don't really know what she's capable of. She's really gone the extra mile to not tell anyone like her past, but there's so many hints. And Jack even says, she's like, I don't know what you're capable of. So, but of course we'll get to who actually poisoned Michael towards the end. But yeah, dude, I love the scene where everything between her and Sawyer this episode, it was just elevated. Like, I think that's something that did really, really well because they've been building it through this whole season. These two are butting heads so hard. At times, they're almost like a bickering couple. At other times, you're like, oh God, they're gonna murder each other. Like a married couple. So, but yeah, like I even like that. Like Sawyer, we like to see him as a good guy who does bad things, or he's just a bad guy with like morals. But there are times when he just crosses that line. And you're like, oh God, this guy's dangerous. We forget that because being like a lot of his humor is the straight man humor, you know. It's more of the way he reacts to these situations. He's not really going to be the ones cracking jokes, and if it is, they're like mean jokes, you know. So there's a lot of humor that comes out of Sawyer's character, and it's kind of easy to do because it's like, okay, who's the funniest person to throw in this situation? Who's the one person who can read to the little baby? Oh, you get this guy.
Yeah.
The last one you would think. That's easy to do, and it's done well. But that also makes you forget like how bad a dude he is.
Yeah.
So moments like this where he's confronting Kate really work and it sells it. And then Kate claps back. Sawyer. I'm sorry. Sawyer. If I wanted your seat, I'd take your seat. Oh, perfect. Evangeline Lilly, I'm going to take your job. Dude, but no, like seriously, I'm just messing around. But when she delivered that line, it's like, that's the first time we really saw like badass Kate on island. You're like, oh, because she's always manipulating, but she's just straight up threatening Sawyer without like saying, I'm going to kill you. You know, you're like, oh God. Yeah, man. I loved it. I love their whole relationship this episode. And I love their essentially felt it could possibly be their farewell scene at the end of the episode at the fire. And you do see a little maybe hint of regret on both of their sides. Like they know they're not really splitting up on the best of terms. Even the way Sawyer admits, he's like, you're not the only one running and all that stuff. You do see this different connection in that moment, different from what they've had this whole time.
I'm gonna take a moment.
Take a moment.
When right before we get the Lost intro title card,
Before the commercial break.
Yeah, before the commercial break, exactly. It ends where Kate essentially is like, I'm getting on that boat.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I'm getting out of here. Here's my thing. You're a wanted criminal. You're wanted seemingly in like 2 countries at least,
Yeah.
And I get that you're wanting to like get back to the world, or you want to get out there before the world comes to you, like before rescue comes, whatever, finds the island. You already have the perfect out. Your plane went down.
Yeah, I was thinking that
maybe
too.
100 miles off course from where it's supposed to. So if rescue comes, 1, it's going to be a miracle. But 2, you have absolutely no obligation to be on the beach when rescue comes. Obviously we have no idea what's waiting for Kate back wherever she's trying to get to. Because what it seems like is she's just trying to run. She's trying to run away. She's running away from everything. That's kind of the through line with every one of like her stories, and then everything that she's doing in this episode is she's trying to run away. She's trying to get away from this situation and onto the next one. Kate's problem is that she's not thinking anything through. She's so short-sighted in her goal. Just like, I just have to get this one thing done and then I can go. I have to do this and then I can go. And she doesn't realize that her putting herself in that mindset is drawing all these other people into her orbit that are going to get hurt. And she keeps doing it. It keeps happening to her. And it kind of feels like she doesn't care, or she doesn't notice enough to care, because we saw that in her first flashback. She's there with the farmer. Obviously, it's already at the point where she's like, no, I really don't want to stay. And she just has that energy, that way about her to sort of want, like, people want to help her. People like instinctively want to help her. And then, of course, they end up getting screwed over for it. Most of the people that we've seen end up getting killed or at least shot. But that's my thing. Like, you keep trying to run away. The island has already given you the perfect out. You're dead. You don't need to assume a dead woman's identity. You yourself are a dead woman.
Yeah.
Just walk off into the island. Just pick a direction and walk.
I was thinking that too. I don't know if anyone wants to stay other than Locke.
I mean, yeah.
Because they know they're probably going to die out there.
Yeah, I know that. But I'm just thinking,
seems to be okay. She might be a little crazy.
Ethan lived on the island and he seems fine. He's able to pop out of the ocean and break people's bones in 5 seconds. Like,
yeah,
I feel like people have lived here. You'll be fine.
So that's where Starburns comes from.
The island?
The ocean, he just pops out.
Yeah, exactly. He's hiding on the island to get away from his meth charges.
Yeah, I see. Doesn't he like die and they bring him back in Community?
Yeah, he was rear-ended and he was stealing stuff from the chemistry lab to make meth. Just like Breaking Bad, but he got rear-ended and all the ingredients blew up his car. So he died. But then at the end of the season, you see that he's just like putting a wig on his head, but he still has the star-shaped sideburns. He's alive, and he comes back in season 5 in their David Fincher 7 episode, and he takes the fall for the for the villain.
I mean, if that's not a lost flashback, I don't know what is.
I'm telling you, man. I'm telling you. There's an odd through line between Lost and Community, and it works, man.
Oh God. Oh man. Yeah. What else to talk about? Sun and Jin have a quick little scene, and how brilliantly played that simple little scene was. We didn't know the implications of. So, because before we get into the other stuff, because there is other stuff we want to talk about, the big reveal at the end is Jack figures it out. Sun's the one who poisoned the water. She wanted to get Jin sick so he didn't sail away from the island.
Yeah.
But he's always working with Michael, so Michael accidentally drank the water. It wasn't enough to kill anyone or really poison, but it knocked him off his ass for a couple hours. Which was cool. As a fan of Lost, I completely forgot about. I was like, oh God, it's a chicken fried steak all over the place. It was Sun. Oh.
Yeah.
But then it's a good moment between her and Jack, and he's like, I don't see why anyone else needs to know. And she really opens up to Jack, The only other people she's really opened up to is Kate.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that was good. But then, of course, at the very end, she goes to Kate, thanking her and also apologizing for pulling her into it. Kate is the one who convinces Sun to poison Jin's water, which accidentally poisoned Michael. And she's like, I know you were just trying to help me. And Kate just gives that kind of like side-eye look. Damn it, Kate. She was behind the whole thing. It's like, oh my God, this whole episode, you're feeling so conflicted over your feelings with Kate. And then you think you've come to a good place with it. And then they dropped the bombshell. No, she was behind the whole damn thing. Kate is dangerous. You're just thinking it for the wrong reasons.
Yep.
Oh, dude, that was I was, man.
Yeah.
I was choking on food I had already swallowed. I think that was cool. That's definitely the highlight of the episode. And that's what we mean about this, because if they didn't really have the flashbacks, this would have been a really cool whodunit scenario.
Yeah.
Because all the clues were there and you didn't really realize it was a mystery until it was solved. Because it's either, from the beginning, just it being Kate's story, it's probably Kate.
Yeah.
All the clues are there. But then like, oh, little red herring, Sawyer, audience is pretty sure it's not Sawyer. And then you're like, oh, it was Sun. That's brilliant. And then, nope, it was Kate. I was right, but I didn't know why. That's awesome way to tell a mystery right there.
Yeah.
I wish they had focused on that instead of the flashbacks. And yeah, it would have been great. But, oh God, there's just so much to talk about in this one episode. I think we're more than making up for last week's. So real quick, I'm just going to throw out some bullet points. Sawyer calls Jin Sulu, which is very problematic. But I think those characters are slowly like learning to love each other. Yeah. Let's see. Oh, Charlie's making a comeback. He's planning a comeback. He's writing.
Yep.
He's writing and a pretty cool song called The Monster Eats the Pilot.
Yep.
And he's singing, and the little baby's there in the little cradle.
Yeah,
Claire's cutting his turnip heads in the cradle. Claire's cutting Charlie's hair. I'm like, yes, I love this island family vibe they're starting. Hurley accidentally rats out Kate to Locke.
Yeah. And once again, I feel like Hurley gets the line of the episode where he's just like, man, I can't keep track of who doesn't know things.
Yeah.
Which is also an interesting moment, because I kind of feel like it brings back the Jack Locke conversation about, like, you use your discretion, I use mine.
Yeah.
And then when Locke is like, and you didn't think to tell anybody about that? He's like, I use my discretion, John. And it's like, yeah, but here's the thing. The things we held back weren't as bad.
Yeah.
As hiding the fact that one of our own who's living on this island is a criminal.
Yeah.
So that right there, I'm like, no, Jack, that's not the same. That's not the one up you think it is. Because even like, yeah, fine. Like Jack hiding the guns from everybody. I'm on board with that. I can see that.
I can see the reasoning.
Locke hiding the hatch from everybody. I can also see the reasoning. It's not like, obviously I feel like Locke should have told people about the hatch. I feel that more, but I think there's also this sort of, there's this air of trust with everybody that like, we're not going to be the ones to hurt each other, right? You know? But the Ethan thing, that puts me off, you know, and you know, like we've dealt with that. We talked about it. I'm not going to dwell on that. But Kate's a criminal.
Yeah.
Just the fact that people now know that Kate's a criminal, it's like people aren't going to trust her anymore.
Yeah.
And that right there, I feel like is like, no, that's not the same. Like that's information that we need to know, because I feel like people didn't remember that. Like there's the marshal, and well, I don't remember, but like somebody found like the handcuffs. So they were like, there's a criminal on this island, you know, or something like that. But that, I don't know that was ever like explained to everybody, or if anybody remembers that.
Yeah, because first time we see Sawyer, he's fighting Saeed.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah. So this is where it's kind of tricky, because there's, just like Hurley says, there's so much info that only certain characters know about. And it's really hard for the audience to keep track of who knows what.
Mm-hmm.
So like, I think you're touching on something even a little deeper here, because I see Jack's point, and I see him wanting to give Kate a second chance. One, everyone should still be nervous that there is a fugitive among them. I think once you find out, oh, someone poisoned Michael, well, guys, I think there's something you should know about Kate. You know, just in case. It's a really weird situation. Jack even tells her, I mean, he's had issues with Kate this whole time. You wouldn't think at some point he would have revealed it to everyone. She's a criminal. Mm-hmm. But he didn't, because he's in love with her. It's so obvious, you know? Anyway, but there's an interesting quote that our good friend Mickey just posted from author Lauren Eden.
Okay.
When you're not fed love on a silver spoon, you learn to lick it off of knives. Yes. Where's that from? I looked it up. Some author wrote it.
Okay.
But why are you laughing?
I'm not laughing.
Oh, I thought you were laughing.
No. I'm chuckling because, like, damn, you know? Like, that's intense, but I also get it. Like,
especially look at Jack's life. Look at what is love for Jack.
Baby, don't hurt me.
That came from his dad, who is worst fucking dad.
Yeah.
So of course Jack's gonna fall in love with the criminal. Who's he think he is? Matt Jimenez? Although I have no excuse.
Yeah, you have no excuse.
I just like a good rogue.
You just hate yourself.
I just like a good scoundrel.
Okay. Well, who among us doesn't?
Yeah. Everyone loves Han Solo. You know, I just happen to prefer a female Han Solo. That's my preference.
That's okay.
So, yeah. Give me a good old smuggler any day. Anyway. Yeah, so it kind of makes sense that that's how Jack's treating Kate. But also, who is the other person on this island who's all about second chances, a new life? Locke. Jack and Locke are so similar, but also so different. And that's where the relationship is really interesting.
That's true. I didn't even think about that.
Yeah.
Damn it.
Yeah, it's like those two. Right. And that was one of my notes. Like, I like this episode because they're both trying to figure out who solved or who poisoned Michael. Jack's asking people, Locke's asking people, and they meet up and discuss it with Hurley standing right there. And like, I like those two characters working together. This is the first time we've really seen them working together. Like, I like this dynamic. Yeah. But that's pretty much it. The last thing I want to talk about is a major thing. Walt. Poor little Walt. He goes to Locke to tell him that he didn't poison his dad.
Mm-hmm.
And Locke knows he didn't. He says, "Oh, you think because I knew you burned the raft that, you didn't, you did this to your dad." He's like, "No, I know you wouldn't do this and all this stuff." He's like, "We're friends." Locke touches him, like grabs him by the wrist, and Walt changes. And he says, "Don't open it, Locke. Whatever that thing is, don't open it." And then he runs off.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. And Locke's just freaked out. And it's like, okay, that's creepy. Then at the end of the episode, Walt reveals to Michael that he's the one who burned the raft because he didn't want to go. And I thought it was great. And I love Michael's reaction to it. He's like, if you want to stay, we can stay, because he knows internally how dangerous this is.
Yeah.
But he says, if you want to stay, we can stay. And Walt just looks at him. He's like, no, we can't. It's like, oh, God. What the hell? What the hell?
Telling you, man, Walt's got like these weird, he's got precognition now. You touch him, it's the dead zone thing, man, that like he's got, maybe not like I see how you die, but like I see things.
Like he reads like the energy around someone.
Yeah.
Even if it's like not the energy of Locke, it's like what he's dabbling in. Like it's so bizarre and so creepy.
I love it. Okay. I just have to say, I know that the show gets more like sci-fi. Mm-hmm. And I know, I know certain things happened, and that's kind of what's been like stopping me from just saying like, oh, well, I think like they're going to do this, because obviously I kind of know that happens already. I just don't know the context, So it's hard for me to kind of come up with predictions that aren't just wildly outlandish.
Yeah.
But I kind of wish they would just throw themselves in that direction. If they're going to do, if I think at any point, if they ever did a revival of some sort or a sequel or anything with Lost, I would say to hell with trying to keep this like the original or as like streamlined as possible. I'm like, I want you to go for it. Mm-hmm. I don't want you to be afraid to just flat out be like, hey, this person might be able to read people's minds. Mm-hmm. They might be able to like read like their initial thought when, like if they share food or if they sing or something like that. Like mm-hmm. I say just go for it. There's a reason why Twin Peaks was as popular as it was and has sustained its popularity and its fan base.
Right.
And that's because you have somebody like David Lynch who his whole mindset is that like he like life doesn't make sense. Mm-hmm. Like our lives don't make sense. Our reality doesn't follow a linear structure. So why would we apply that to storytelling? Obviously, for certain stories, yes, you do. And even within his own, he does have a structure. He does have his way to do it. That's why he's kind of one of the only people who can tell these wildly crazy stories that do dabble in doppelgangers and nightmare universes, or whatever, whatever it is. That's why he can do it though, because he has that structure that works, and other mm-hmm. people just are like, oh, we're going to do this just because, like, we're going to subvert expectations. Like, no, that's not, you're missing the point. You're just trying to go for the surprise. That's not what makes those things sustainable. Mm-hmm. We already know that Walt has some sort of weird ability to like channel his emotion or manifest his emotion in a certain way. Like when he's looking at the bird and his mom and stepdad are arguing, and then the bird that he saw in the book literally flies at their window and kills itself. Like, we already know that there's something going on, and just the nature of the island itself. We know that it's not normal. It's not, it's not grounded. This isn't realistic.
Yeah.
So I feel like At least for me, like, and I don't want it. I don't, you don't have to put a label on it and be like, no, like it's actually like whatever. There's a real dinosaur or whatever. But like, just yeah.
And I see what you're saying, and I agree. But at the same time, I think what works best in the show's favor is the mystery of it.
Yeah, obviously, yeah.
And that's something that you can't lose. Now, whether the show delivers on that mystery or not, we're gonna figure it out.
Yeah.
But you have to do it. You have to do it right. You have to do it careful, because I know we joke a lot about Locke is Professor X, and I think they're going to make a superhero team and all this stuff.
Yeah,
but you're forgetting about, when did the show air? Early 2000s.
Mm-hmm.
What happened after the show aired? All the shows started turning into ensemble casts.
Mm-hmm.
Tons of shows started implementing some kind of flashback format.
Mm-hmm.
There was a lot more mysteries. A lot of shows were throwing in like, oh, the big twist at the end of the pilot changes the whole concept of the show, that whole thing. And then a lot more characters on TV started showing up with some kind of abilities.
Yeah, that's
Hence,
true.
2006, we had the premiere of Heroes. So that's kind of what you need to think about too. Like, that's the route we don't want to go with Lost. Because I think it's very easy to say, oh, these people have abilities and all this stuff, we're going to put them together. It's tempting, but just that concept alone is changing your genre.
Yeah. Again, that's why I'm saying, like, I'm the predictions that I'm making. Obviously, I'm not serious about Locke being Professor X. But when I see stuff and I'm like, oh yeah, that totally lines up with my secret X-Men show theory. Like, I know it's not a secret X-Men show. Like, but yeah, that's just kind of my thing. Like, I feel like there's also, yes, this is the show that like starts off and kicks off that boom of big ensembles, flashbacks, and mysterious powers, whatever. But there's still a fear of putting things in that, because we don't want the audience to lose interest, or we don't want to alienate the audience,
right? Yeah.
And I'm like, I totally get that. And that, again, the nature of Lost was built on the premise of the mystery. You don't know what the island is. You don't know why these people are here. Is it fate? Is it time travel? Was it destined, or was it just an accident? You're not going to know. We might tell you, though. You might figure it out. Mm-hmm. And that's what keeps people coming back. And that's fine. I get it, but I, you just
want them to dive in.
Yeah. I think
Stranger Things is the perfect example.
There you go.
Especially that first season. That first season is a huge mystery.
Mm-hmm.
But by the end, because even, what is it about? It's about people with powers.
Yeah.
That may not be the whole premise or the main premise, but it's a show about people with abilities.
Yeah.
But they're able to do it in a way that's, it still has that added element of fear. It is a scary story. There are monsters. And they're able to do it, and they're able to keep the mystery. So I think that would be a good way. And that's a whole other podcast right there. Just the way Stranger Things has changed, quote unquote, television.
Yeah.
Just in this past, 5 years that it's been out? I don't know.
Something like that.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, I think there's a lot more similarities between Lost and Stranger Things as far as its impact on our culture than there are between Lost and Game of Thrones. That's very interesting. I never really considered that, because when you think about those big blockbuster shows, you think of Lost, you think Game of Thrones, and then there's a bunch of stuff in between on different varying levels. But I never even thought about Stranger Things. I think that is a much better comparison.
Yeah. I think the biggest comparison between like Lost and Game of Thrones, beside the fact that like they dominated, like the airwaves and pop culture for as long as they did. But I think it comes down to the ending. when you have the conversations with people, like what show is no longer part of, the cultural lexicon that was for, X amount of years. And now it's just like, it's nothing, like nobody talks about it anymore. It's like, people mention Game of Thrones and Lost because that's how many people didn't like the endings of either show.
Yeah, like I agree, especially now in hindsight, those are a lot of the similarities right there. But the big thing too is like they're epics.
Yeah.
Lost, especially at the time, even now, what other show films on location that much? Like, how many sets did they have to build for Lost? Almost none.
Yeah.
Maybe an office. Maybe even then, I don't think they built a hospital because so many of these flashbacks happen in hospitals. They probably just use the same hospital.
Yeah.
No, it's either like an abandoned building or it's a wing that's not being used.
I would really say like the cave is probably the only set that they had to build.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. It's probably the cave for sure. But what other show, even by today's standards, is shot primarily on location? They're in the jungles of Hawaii. And it looks like it. It's real, So I think that's what you can compare the two shows to. But obviously, as the show goes on, we'll probably see more sets here and there, and
for sure.
But man, once again, we ran the gauntlet I think we more than adequately made up for last week's. There's a lot to talk about this time. We already kind of mentioned predictions. Do you have any more that you want to throw in after this episode?
No, I think I'm gonna wait. I'm gonna wait until we see the next episode. To sort of just see like if anything I already predicted has come to pass, or if I have a new one.
Let's say this. Let's say this, because this is our final episode before the 2-part season finale. Do you have any predictions of what's going to happen in the finale? Or what you think needs to happen to wrap this season up? Anything you just want to get over with. Season 1, let's just leave it behind.
Oh man. Okay. Let's see. Okay. They got to address the hatch, and everybody's got to find out. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And even if it's just like the ensemble, like the main, the main ensemble cast, like they all have to find out. That has to come in. I'm curious if we get another indication of the other people who are living on this island, because if Ethan was part of that, I want to know, and I want to see like, okay,
just want more, just find out more before the season ends.
Yeah, I want that to get addressed. As far as like things I want to leave behind, I'm really glad Claire had her baby this season. I'm glad that wasn't stretched out to be like, oh, we're season 3. Is she ever really going to have the baby? I'm glad that that's not a thing. I want to leave back like the bad flashbacks, or the flashbacks that I'm just, I don't care about this, Charlie's flashbacks. I want more from him, Yeah. I want the flashbacks here on out to really tie into or present new information about the characters and the island. Because I love Hurley. I don't feel like I really need to see like more of Hurley's flashbacks unless they're going to pertain to the island.
Yeah. Well, the flashbacks we have seen were revolved around the numbers.
Well, yeah, exactly.
So if we do see more, I want to see more, kind of like, I guess, Hurley and Claire.
Yeah.
They're really the only two with flashbacks that have links to the island.
Yeah. Yeah. So I want to see more flashbacks that tie into the island and all that. I want these flashbacks and I want these characters to mean something. Yeah. I want their episodes to mean something to the story overall.
Yeah.
That's pretty much it. But the things that need to get addressed by next episode, the hatch, what happens to the raft, and any indication of the other people on the island.
Mm-hmm.
That's all I got.
Okay, so let's jump into MVPs.
Yeah, dude, I'm gonna give it to Kate.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna give it to Evangeline Lilly. You like, again, as we've said multiple times this episode, even though her flashbacks didn't really give us any real new information about it, I think Evangeline Lilly just really brought it this episode. Like she's been doing stuff like on the side in a lot of episodes, but I really do like her performance in this one. We see the severity of how easily Kate manipulates people.
Mm-hmm.
She doesn't have to really do or try or say anything to get her ex to just help her.
Right.
To go out in the middle of the night and dig up their time capsule that they buried when they were kids. Like, I don't know. He's married now. He's a doctor. Like, he's got responsibilities, and he's leaving at like 3 a.m. to go dig up this box with his ex-girlfriend from childhood. Like, that says a lot. But also Kate is able to just like use people to get the things that she wants, or to try to get the things she wants, by helping Sun try to get her stuff taken care of,
Yeah.
And that's dangerous. Like, out of all the people on the island who are like people that you don't really want to like tussle with, that you don't want to piss off, I think number one is Locke.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe number two is Saeed.
Yeah.
But Kate is like immediately right after.
Yeah. And it sucks too, because everyone loves Sun, and we've seen Sun and Kate support each other throughout this first season.
So this does feel like a betrayal,
it does. Sun just doesn't realize it, and it does. Like, it was kind of heartbreaking to that twist. You're like, damn it. Like, is nothing sacred, Kate? Next thing we know, she's gonna betray Hurley.
Right? Oh, hell no.
Yeah.
If she betrays Hurley, I'm immediately just gonna label Kate like, nope, irredeemable. Get her off the island.
Yeah. Man. Well, I'm gonna give the MVP to Mackenzie Aston, who played Tom.
Oh, okay.
Because although Tom, he made his choice, I wouldn't really put that on Kate that he got killed. He made his choice. But you feel for him, and I really bought their relationship, man. Even that one line he has, he's like, this isn't fair, right? Coming back like this. Oh, dude. Yeah.
There's so much being said that they don't say.
Again, it's what's not being said.
Again, exactly. So the fact that like they're able to like have those exchanges that are mostly just silent, that are mostly just looks, and even some of the looks that aren't like where they don't catch each other's eyes.
Yeah.
It's their looks at each other that's like, man, this girl's trouble. And Kate is like, I can't believe I'm asking him to do this, but I have to,
Yeah. And just for a guest star role, I think he had so many layers in that performance. Me as a person can relate to about 70 to 80% of those layers.
Yeah.
Yeah, it hit. I felt like I got shot in a speeding vehicle. But so that was Mackenzie Aston, who was the brother of Sean Aston.
Hey.
He also played Richard in season 1 of The Magicians.
Is that the
super nice guy with like all the online friends and stuff? They have like their little group that Julia joins.
Oh yeah.
I'm really trying to avoid spoilers for The Magicians, but yes.
That's right.
That's right.
Him. Okay. That's him. Okay. Yeah. Cause he's another one of those actors that like, oh yeah, I recognize him and stuff, but I'd never know his name.
Yeah.
Just, oh, he's that one guy. Yeah. Okay.
Talk about some different ranges of acting there. Yeah.
That guy's good. Oh man.
And he's the brother of Sean Astin, so of course, yeah.
Of course.
So yeah, I really felt for him. So I'm gonna give him a spot on our MVP list.
Heck yeah.
So,
alrighty.
Cool, man. Yeah, that's pretty much it. That was the final episode before our 2-part finale. Woo! So next week, we're talking about season 1, episode 23, Exodus, part 1. As the survivors race against time to launch the raft, a familiar face returns with a dire warning.
Oh. It's the polar bear, isn't it?
Yeah.
Well, don't tell me that.
Damn, spoilers. Polar bear comes back.
Damn it, Matt.
So yeah. So as always, guys, you can find me on Twitter _Matt Jimenez or on Instagram at Holy Hand Grenade of Antioch. I'm getting a lot of new followers on Instagram. I don't know why. And it's not spam. So it might be you guys. If it is, shoot me a DM because I don't know. I'm seeing more podcasters follow me and I don't know why. So hit me up.
I'm you can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Reel, that's REEL, Texas Weirdo. I too am also seeing a small uptick in people that are following me. If you're following us, if you're following from because you listen to the show, first off, thank you very much. And yeah, just hit us up, send us a DM or something. And yeah, again, if you have any questions, you know, our DMs are open, you know, so just talk to us.
And hashtag Ask Sam and Matt if you got any questions regarding Lost and or anything else. We'll answer them.
Yeah.
Cool. All right, bro. I had fun. We'll do it again next week. Until next time.
Get lost.